Welcome back to the channel. On this channel we do many things, including veganizing recipes and mostly French recipes, since I'm French and I miss French food since I don't live in France anymore. And I thought, why not make them vegan? Then we can share them with everyone, and we're vegans ourselves. Croissants is something that in France we eat quite regularly, maybe once a week. More often for those who are more lucky, but it's something you eat on the weekends or on occasions. They're sold in every bakery, and there's a difference in quality from bakery to bakery. The ingredients have a lot to say, but it's mostly how you make them. Vegan croissants taste exactly the same as non-vegan croissants. You cannot taste the difference. It's often like that with baking, or even now with vegan meat. Vegan cheese is also getting very close to what the non-dairy, the dairy is. Anyways, you understand what I say. So croissants often seem intimidating, like something that takes a lot of time. It's actually not taking a lot of time, it takes a lot of preparation. So you have to anticipate the day before, but the time itself to make the croissants, it's not so much time actually. It's we will put in the screen now how much time it took us to make these croissants, so we chronometer. But it's fairly easy once you know how to make them. Maybe you'll fail once or twice, but for us, since we found the perfect recipe, it works every time. So it's just like a habit to pick up. Maybe if you fail the first time, it's because you didn't pay attention to a part of the recipe. We will be very detailed in this recipe, which I developed with John, who is a very detailed person in general. Can you tell us a bit more about like the equipment you should have and the pitfalls to avoid?
It is important to follow the steps in the correct order. At least I think it is important to do it this way, since that's what have worked for us. And we use some equipment that maybe you don't have this equipment, but it should be possible to make it anyway.
But the equipment we have is just a machine for the kneading.
Yeah.
If you can knead the dough yourself.
Of course you can do that. So you have to do it for a long enough time. So yeah, that, as with any other baking. What is possibly important, difficult to get around, is having a scale. Because I think to make proper measurements are, I think it's crucial. Yeah, it's crucial. I think so. It's
not a recipe that you're like, maybe a bit more of butter. You have to be quite precise. Generally in baking, it's they say like baking is more kind of like a science, and cooking more like an art. I think that's definitely true, and especially with this recipe and most of French baking in general. So there's nothing very difficult. We will show you some of the pitfalls, different styles of baking the croissants. You can also freeze them in, but we'll come back to those parts. We simplified the recipe as much as we could, but be careful of recipes that seem even more simplified on the internet, because often what they do, they don't make croissants like with layers and the crunch and the things that are actually nice about croissants. They make brioche, what we call in France brioche at least, and that is more very sweet bread, so you don't have the layers, and that's kind of key here, and that's why you cannot simplify this indefinitely. But we took the unnecessary steps out. Every step is important in this recipe, so please pay attention. We would like to ask you to like, comment suggestions of recipes you want to see next. And also please subscribe if you didn't do already. This helps us a lot to stay motivated and to gain this channel, gain visibility. And we hope you enjoy making these croissants as much as we do. And now let's dive in.
To make the croissants, you will need all of these 8 ingredients in these quantities. So just get them ready on your bench and start measuring up 120 grams of sweetened plant-based milk, either soy or oat milk. We use an agave mixer, but any type of mixer should work. So add the milk and add 1 pack of instant or dry yeast. We do it this way to start activating the yeast. Then it is 40 grams of vegan butter that needs to be fully melted. Add all the water and the melted vegan butter. Measure up 50 grams of sugar and 12 grams of salt and start carefully pouring a bit at a time, making sure that everything is mixed thoroughly. Then the final ingredient is the wheat flour. You should be able to use regular all-purpose wheat flour, but make sure that it is 11 or 12% protein. I start by pouring in about half of the flour, mixing that in thoroughly, and then adding the final half all at once. The dough might seem a bit dry in the beginning, but you should not add any extra water, you just need to mix it long enough. When the dough gets this shiny look, put on a timer and let the machine continue for about 8 minutes. This should make the dough very smooth and evenly colored. While the dough is mixing, make the vegan butter layer. Measure up 240 grams of vegan butter, place it in a regular food-safe plastic bag and use a roller to spread it out, forming an even plate. Place this in the fridge. The dough should be ready to raise, but before putting it away, you should tension it up by folding it over itself like this a couple of times. You don't need to do it as many times as I do. Then place the dough in a container with a lid. Let it raise for about 30 minutes. You should see or feel that the dough has become a bit larger and a bit easier to handle. Do the same folding again. Let it raise another 30 minutes. The dough should be even larger now and you should see some small bubbles forming on the surface. Do one more folding. Then place it back for about 2 hours. I add a tiny bit of water to make sure the dough stays humid. After 2 hours, the dough should have become much larger, ready to roll out. Prepare the kitchen bench with some flour and make sure to have the butter plate ready nearby. Start rolling out the dough. You should feel it keeping together very firmly. Try to make it a rectangular shape, a bit larger than twice the size of the butter layering. The point is to be able to trap the butter plate inside the dough. You will see me struggle a bit with the scissors and everything, but just make sure that the dough is large enough before placing the butter layering on top of it. Then fold the dough to make sure that the butter is fully confined. There are other ways to do this, but this is good enough. When the butter is well inside, carefully roll out the dough, trying to make a new rectangle. This rectangle should be folded over itself such that you end up with a three-fold, as you can see here. Place the dough on a plate, cover it with plastic and put it in the fridge for at least 30 minutes. The longer the better. You want to give the dough time to rise. And as you can see, it is a bit larger when taking it out of the fridge. You should also feel that there are some bubbles inside the dough when you start rolling it out. Make sure to add flour such that nothing sticks and roll the dough out again. Same as last time, try to make a rectangle. Rolling out the dough might be the thing that takes most time and is most difficult, but giving the dough enough time to raise does make it easier to handle. Then to a 4-layer fold like this. Use the roller to fix it together. Wrap it in plastic and put it in the fridge overnight. When you take out the dough the next morning, you should notice it being larger and ready to roll out a final time. You should try to spread out the dough in a rectangular shape with an even thickness. You can see the thickness we ended up with here. Maybe it could have been a bit thinner, but you should also avoid stressing the dough too much, otherwise it will destroy the layering effect. What we will do is to take one part of this rectangle and do an extra fold, just to show you that it really doesn't matter that you do more folds than has already been done. To cut out the croissants, use a pizza cutter. Don't do it too complicated, just go for it and try to make some sort of even triangles. Before rolling the croissants, you can flatten the slices a bit more with the roller. And when rolling, try to make some tension going outwards. You do not need to make any special cuts or similar to get the croissant shape. This is how the finished croissant should look like. Notice how the tail is at the bottom. In the end, we got 9 croissants out of this plate, so if we had included the other rectangle, the dough should in total make about 12 croissants. We will divide these croissants into some different batches. So these 3 are taken immediately to the oven. We add the shiny wash, which is 1 part syrup with 2 parts soy milk, mix together and add thoroughly over all the surfaces. These first croissants will be raised using the oven. Use the convection option or hot air with the temperature at 30 or 40 degrees centigrade for about 30 minutes. This is how they should look when taking them out. Increase the temperature to 180 degrees. And put them back in another 15 minutes to finish baking them. You can use this option if you want the croissants to be done faster. Here is the result, and as you can see, they have a nice brown shine and are layered the way croissants should be. Feel free to eat them with pistachio cream, with a nice cup of coffee, or any other way you like. The second option is to let the croissants raise under plastic on the kitchen bench for about 60 to 90 minutes. Apply the wash and bake the croissants in the oven at 180 degrees centigrade for 15 minutes, using the convection or fan heat option. Here are the finished croissants, quite like the first batch. The third batch is the croissants made with an extra layer. These are also made without the shiny wash, which makes them look not shiny and not so nice. As for the layers, it is difficult to see any real difference from the other batches, so this means that you don't need to care about making more folds than we do, and also it is important to add the shiny wash for the best results. So that's it for this video. You'll find all the details in the description too. So all that's left is wishing you best of luck with making your own croissants. Bye bye!